All right, so today's subject of conversation in our masterclass is going to be about the connection between leadership and logistics. To help put this in perspective, a 2022 survey of the supply chain industry indicated that about 21% of women hold senior leadership VP senior director roles, and this is lower than it was in 2021. Now, there's still a lot of work to be done in the leadership and logistics space. And to help us get ahead on that subject, we've got our two expert speakers. So, quite briefly, let me introduce Dr. Arthie Moore-Robberts. Dr. Arthie is a globally renowned leadership strategist with over 25 years of experience across the industry and in diversity and inclusion. She is the founder of Celebrating Humanity International and Kai Leadership International and is a values based leadership specialist. She's a professional speaker, a philanthropist, and has a specialist doctorate from Oxbridge Institute of Professional Development in the United Kingdom. On a side note, Dr. Arthie is a huge fan of jazz music. Welcome, Dr. Arthie.
Thank you.
Okay, over to Dawn Yoder. Now, Dawn Yoder is also called the Values Whisperer. Quite an interesting title, I might add. She is the CEO of Digital Dish and one of the founding specialists for Global Priority Solutions. She exemplifies values driven leadership on a global scale and has over 3 decades of dedication to cultivating high capacity leaders through character based values. Dawn has been instrumental in transforming organizational leaders through character based values. She's also been instrumental in transforming organizational cultures across the world. And as a pioneer in values driven leadership, she's empowered leaders across national and government institutions, reshaping toxic environments into thriving, productive workplaces. So, to the both of you, welcome. And the floor is both of yours right now. Over to you.
Thank you. Merhaba, salam, and good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all of you amazing, fabulous people out there. We're about to have an incredible couple of, well, let's say next 45 minutes, having a lot of fun together. But what's interesting for me is that I get to actually do this alongside my beautiful, gorgeous Dawn Yoder. But before I do that, we need to honor the beautiful, incredible CEO and founder of Glow Network and say a special thank you to her first for being a visionary, for overcoming, for enduring, and for being resilient in the most powerful way possible. I have watched your journey over these couple of years. I've watched your growth. I've watched you honor yourself and respect yourself more than everybody else around you and more than anybody thought that you could have, be, do, or achieve. So I want to say I'm grateful to be in your presence today. Because when it comes to leadership, it's the strength of the person, it's the power of the spirit, and it is your ability to overcome that has brought all of us here today. So I think it's going to be a fabulous few moments that we're just honoring you. And over the next half an hour or so, Dawn and I are just going to tantalize you with all the fun things we've been doing over the last few years. I met Dawn over 10 years ago, or nearly 10 years ago in Ohio. And, you know, I was struck by her beauty as a human being. They say that people come into your life and you never know and understand why they're in your life. But when you see this light emanating and this energy emanating from a person, you just feel drawn to them because there's something about them that you know that they will put on this earth to touch you, to bring out your own talent and your own brilliance. That is who Dawn is. She is the values whisperer. She sees into the souls of people, and she has got the ability to challenge who you are as a human being. And for you to actually remove the blinders and the things that block you from seeing your reality. And when we're talking about leadership in logistics, some of this sounds so far out, but all we're doing is talking about humanity. We're talking about being human. We're talking about the human spirit. And we're talking about the heart, mind, body, and soul experience. And for me, sitting in this room. We've got so many incredible people and our attendees, and they're looking for something incredible in their lives. And this platform is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of a fantastic journey of empowering, guiding, supporting, and building a network so powerful that we are just grateful to be sharing this platform. So thank you, Mary, and thank you, Dawn, for joining me. And as I go into the presentation of something I just put together, I realized that the one thing when we speak about elevating leadership in logistics, at the end of the day, logistics is the thing that is wrapped around all of us as human beings. It allows us from supply chain, automation, mechatronics, manufacturing, engineering, all of the brilliance of those minds to make it as simple and effective for us to have a beautiful lifestyle. Everything flows. And there is such an incredible way to describe supply chain where everybody works in unison to make sure that at the end of the day, you have got what you need delivered to your doorstep. It is in the supermarkets. It is wherever you need at the press of the button, you've got things that you want to have the most fabulous life. And we don't realize the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes, the heart, the hard sweat, blood and tears, and all of the pain and all of the logistics that goes behind logistics. There's people at the end of that. And so when I look at how do we create compassionate leaders of influence in elevating leadership in logistics, we get to the point where we realize that people first balanced with automation. When you look at 5IR, we're not talking about 4IR, but 5IR is talking about balancing people first with automation, IT, and all of the development that's coming with, which means that at the level of respect, all people are equal. And the best way to do this is to showcase all of the areas that we need and that very few people talk into when it comes to leadership. We only talk about leaders in terms of titles. We talk about leaders who've been given the title of CEO or managing director or all of these fabulous titles. And I always say it is entitlement, because at some point, a lot of leaders miss the point of having a title, but realizing that people first, and that is where values comes into play. And having Dawn here, who's had so many decades at the feet of the people that created values-based leadership in Ohio over 40 years ago, for them to bring to the world from presidential level all the way through to the littlest people. It's about bringing human behavioral values to the core of every single thing we do and every single thing we want to have. It's about being intentional. And when we're being intentional in leadership, we've got to understand that it's not just a title that gives us this ability. In logistics, we're looking at how do we elevate everybody, regardless of where they come from, their background, their culture, and without putting labels on them, understanding people with disabilities, looking at how we can create belonging, how do we create psychological safety, and so much more. How do we remove discrimination from an environment that was predominantly only one gender base? And now look at the people sitting on this call, the women that have gone before and broken these glass ceilings. One of the things I talk into is the glass ceiling is a phenomena that we bought into because somebody created it as a subject matter. We bought into it and made it part of our thinking and our belief system, when really, if you think about it, glass is see-through, it is transparent, and it can be shattered, which means that at the end of the day, it is our mindsets that prevent us from growing. There is no such thing as we cannot have anybody of a certain gender, ability, disability, whatever background, language group, being in an environment. And when you look at elevating leadership in logistics, we need to empower people who were previously disadvantaged or prevented from having advantage, and then tapping into all of these various areas that will help us to become allies on their journey. And I would love to introduce to you somebody that has walked this journey in the most powerful way. And so I'd love to play a video for you. Can you hear it?
No, we can't, Dr. Arthie. You're going to have to share your audio as well.
Yes, that's what I just need to double check quickly.
No problem.
Please let me know if you can hear it now. Are you able to hear it now?
No, we cannot. So when you share, you might want to click on the share audio as well. It's an option that comes up.
Maybe it's about connection.
Yes, I think it is. I'm actually seeing the sound.
Dr. Arthie, you could perhaps send it over and we could play it for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that because we tested it and it was working. But in the meantime, I think while I'm doing that, it would make sense for Dawn to actually speak into her journey and where she's come from. Were you able to hear that? Did that work? No?
That can work. Dr. Arthie, you'd have to stop sharing your screen.
Dawn, you're muted. Or I can't hear Dawn now.
Okay. Dawn, we aren't able to hear you.
Mm-mm.
I think we just about heard you. Could you just give us a quick hello? No, unfortunately, we can't hear your audio. Dr. Arthie, could you come back on screen, please?
I have no idea why my screen's gone.
Can you hear this?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
you,
hear
Dawn.
you, Dawn.
Okay, finally. So sorry about that. I thought I had it all set up, but I didn't. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to join you. I'm really happy to be with you. And I'm excited to just share a little bit about where I came from. I am someone who's been in family business all of my life. I've had mentors around me that are heavily involved in values and just was kind of raised that way. I was raised to think that way. When we would have a problem in our family business, my dad would ask me, well, which value, what do you think applies to this the best? And even though I'm like 10 years old, I was feeling so valued, to give my opinion. And so, we would talk about things like understanding people and honesty and respect and empathy and all these different things that just gave me this different way of looking at assembling a team. And one of the things that I wanted to just share really quick about that is kind of the core for me is in understanding people. One of our material values, understanding people. And in that value, it says that people have 4 basic needs: to be appreciated,
Yeah,
to
so
experience a sense of achievement, to have a sense of belonging, and to feel secure. And in doing those things, it really allows me, as someone who is, you know, either managing or mentoring, or even the children that I've raised, I have 4 children, it allows me to help release their best self. When I have appreciated them and given them recognition about who they are and not just what they do, when I am setting them up for successes so they can experience achievement, when I make sure they feel included, when earlier in the mixer, when the speaker was talking about including people in on decisions, that goes not just for work, but that goes for family situations as well. When people feel included in decisions, they feel a part of the change. They feel a part of moving forward. It's not, they're not being drug along. They're being swept up in the momentum, which is so different. And then to feel secure. And so much of that feeling secure comes from, I think, a lot of what Dr. Arthie has put together for us, you know, to learn from, which is that sense of they're known, we're allied with them, and we're creating this environment where they can shine through. The purpose, the mission, what they were created for has this opportunity to shine and show that, you know, they're best, and to help them to really engage in intentional growth. So, Dr. Arthie, I'll drop that back to you.
No, I actually love listening to you. I think it's always fabulous. And the video that I actually wanted to show was, you know, some of your success stories using values. And what I loved about it is that it actually goes across all sectors. It didn't matter whether it was young people, older people, regardless of generation. And I think, you know, if we look at it differently, we're in the position where we've got access to so much knowledge, wisdom, and expertise. And some of the values that you spoke into was about listening. It's about challenging mindsets, about the emotional development of people. And I know I'm talking a lot about values-based leadership, but there's a reason behind that, of why I wanted it to be a part of where we are heading in this conversation. When you look at the sustainable growth of people, we're always looking at, you know, organizational values. And in the logistics environment, it's all about how do we go ahead? How do we get ahead? How do we cut out people that we don't like? How do we actually, you know, grab opportunities from people and not even think about the impact it has on each other? I know that it's a very dominating environment from one specific gender, and I've noticed the impact it has on people in general, from young talent all the way through. So I'm not saying it is one specific gender versus somebody else. I'm just saying that in this environment, it is such a strong, focused environment on we need to achieve, but we forget about the emotional state of people around us. And so what I've put on the screen here is just a basic overview of the values-based leadership and why it's important. Is we're always looking, you know, every single person wants to be recognized for who they are and what they do and what they bring to the table. And we're always hearing the story about what do you bring to the table. The problem is that we're talking about stuff that we've learned, not who we are. We're not talking about our self-confidence, our self-esteem, the brilliance of our thinking. We're not talking about our creativity, our curiosity. We actually just say, well, what I'm bringing to the table is I'm good at management, or I'm good at, you know, organizing things. So we talk about things and actions rather than people and behaviors and the emotional state. So when you look at some of the values that would drive leadership in logistics, I would say that some of the areas here would be sowing into people and bringing out the best in them, looking at influence and impact, where you support and guide people to be the best that they can be in this environment. It is about setting goals that allows everybody to achieve not just the business goals, but also the people goals, your family goals. Because if a family unit is feeling loved and wholesome, you don't have challenges at home, then it seeps into the work environment. And if in the work environment, you have a values-driven organization where people understand the impact of boundaries and forgiveness and dependability. I can depend on you regardless. I know that if I pick up the phone, you're going to go over and above in your field of expertise to help me to grow and to prosper. It's about giving so that other people grow, not taking so that I grow. And there's a massive difference in that, which brings us to ethics and judgment. I mean, we judge people all the time. And, you know, when I speak about diversity, equity, inclusion, but on very different levels. I'm talking about things like neurodiversity. I'm talking about allyship. I'm talking about inclusivity. But I'm not dumbing it down to the color of somebody's skin, the language that they speak, or where they grew up, or the historical past that is determined by the control of our countries over people. They conquer and divide by using all of these boxes that we put people into. And Mary is one beautiful example of somebody who has overcome with, you know, having such an incredible journey when it comes to neurodiversity. She overcomes all the time, and it's not her excuse, it's not her crutch, it's a foundation for growth. It's the foundation that spurs her to succeed. She uses a story as an inspirational part to help people to understand that you're not limited by the things that happen to you. It's what you use that and allow yourself to grow into. And so when you look at some of these values, there's so many areas that we need to ask ourselves these simple questions of, what do you value as a human being? Do you give your people the voice to be heard? Do you allow them, regardless of where they come from, what their background is, what their challenges are, what their disability is, what their neurodiversity is, and give them the voice and allow them to be heard as human beings who have got something to bring to the table? Do you actually hire the right people for the right reason, for the right job, and then give them the right skills to succeed? Or do we actually then always look at who are we used to being around, and that comes from a place of judgment? And so when we look at all of these areas and how you bring them together, we always say that we need to build trust. But if you're not listening, how do you build trust? And Dawn, I know that for you, with the value of listening and with emotions, that will come in beautifully. And I think it'll be a perfect time to actually speak into some of the characteristics and the benefits of having that.
I would love to. I was looking at that value of listening, Arthie, and just thinking through that in my mind. And there was a few key things that I wrote down that I wanted to present to all of you, just to give you a help when you're listening. And so the things that I wrote that I need to pay attention to, I need to pay attention to my facial expressions, because whatever my expression is, that person is reading back. And if I am, even if I am distracted, and maybe I'm thinking about something different, or it's in the back of my mind, a problem I'm dealing with, my face reflects that. And so then the person is feeling like they're bothering me, or I don't want to hear them, or I'm upset with what they're saying when I'm not. So the first thing is, what am I giving back? Am I nodding my head? Am I showing interest? Am I making eye contact? Have I put the other things out of my mind? And then with that comes my body language. Is my body language open, or am I closed off? You know, do my eyebrows come down, or do I look happy? You know, do I look like I'm happy to talk to them? Another tip that I try to be mindful of is to speak less and listen more. If I can keep my mouth closed and my ears open, then it is so effective, because when I do have a chance to say something, it's going to be something meaningful or a question that is helpful to them. I want to listen objectively with a non-judgmental attitude. I want to suspend the bias of my own experience so that I can really hear what they're saying. It's so hard to do for me, because so much of how I learn is based on my personal experience. And so even though I think I'm a good listener, when someone else is sharing their experience, I can't help but go to like, oh, how do I identify with that? How do I relate to that? Which is great that I relate to it, but sometimes that shuts off my listeners. My understanders get shut off. So how do I listen objectively to suspend my own bias, to avoid the temptation to think about what I'm going to say next? That is definitely one of the hardest, because, you know, I want to have something witty or something heartfelt or something that's going to be affect them to say back. But when I do that, my full focus is not on what they're saying. So sometimes that means my retort may be a bit slower because I'm just listening, and then I say, okay, give me a minute to process. And then I put something back out. I want to ask thoughtful questions to get clarity and a deeper understanding. So, those questions I love, because at the top of the screen, Arthie, you have, how do they feel? A lot of times that question is, well, I hear this, how did this make you feel? Or how are you feeling right now? That's such a big part of that. And to follow, to not follow my own thoughts, but to follow theirs. So when I said that, I relate to that thought of, I identify with what they're saying, or I've been in that circumstance, or even the much worse one, which is, yeah, but you don't understand what I'm going through. That one's just, it's okay to express how you're feeling, but when you're listening, that's not the thing to be thinking about. And that's such a temptation for me, and why listening has been such a key value that I've studied so many times and set goals and internalized, because I realize that while I hear a lot, I'm not always listening well. I can take in information, but am I taking in their heart? Am I taking in their emotions, what they're feeling, what their goals are, what they dream about, how we can bring those things into fruition to help them become a better person. My goal is always, when I start working with someone, they leave with more they came. If they ever leave me, or they're ever out somewhere else on their own, that's okay. But did they leave with more than they came? And the only way for me to achieve that is to listen well, to find out, what are their skills? What are their values? What are their dreams? Who are they? And the last thing that I wrote was to focus on something that I could learn from them, so that my brain is very attuned to what they are saying. If I focus on what I can learn, either about them, from them, rather than on what I know that's like what they're saying, now I've given my chance this opportunity to grow. And even greater, I give them the opportunity to teach me, which increases their self-confidence. It increases their comfortableness to share things. It brings about this transparency that elevates our relationship to another level, which elevates our trust to another level, and loyalty. It enables us to do greater things together. So Arthie, when you talk about listening, I'm passionate about it, but those are the things that I hope are helpful to others, to say, oh, yep, I do that, I do that, I do that. Maybe that one I could improve on a little, because I know even every time I talk about them, I find things that I can improve on.
Oh, absolutely. And I think listening is an art form. And it's something that we can learn. There's so much, only if we build our awareness around these values do we look at and reflect at our own belief systems, the way we grew up, the things we believed and thought about, the things we were taught from the people around us. And we gathered this was the way to communicate. But when we do these simple values, it's actually saying, how do I value myself first? To see where I'm at, reflect on where I can grow and what benefit it would be for me to add value to other people because I improved myself. So we're always looking at, that's why I call it a sustainable self-development, because it continues your development all the time. So we're not limited in what we can do. And I think that one of the areas that really made sense for me, when I wrote the value of compassion, I felt that this was the one thing that we were missing in this world. We were so busy chasing success. We forgot that the significance of who we were as human beings was the key to our growth, to elevate our vision, to be on purpose, and to walk this earth in a way that we leave people feeling valued for who they are just by being in our presence. And the only way that we can upgrade and improve on our presence is to look at what within ourselves do we need to heal? What traumas do we need to actually tap into? What are our triggers in the business environment that prevents us from succeeding? And then that takes away the judgment of other people. And then we no longer have glass ceilings. And then even leadership in the logistics environment is not about, it's a man woman thing. It's not about an age thing. It's not about which country you come from. It's just, these are people of excellence. These are people who are here to be of service to each other. And if we had that growth mentality, we would network more effectively. And then it's no longer, well, we're all in the same business. Look at what Glow has put together as a network, bringing people together across nations, across countries, across the world. That's why it's a global network. And when they're talking about logistics, they're not limited to who they can be of service to. They're talking about how can we help guide and support and connect you to other people in the industry. So there's an openness, there's a transparency, there's an ethical way of dealing with leadership that is not dumbed down to, I have a title, follow me. And I think that this is something that we all can grow from and learn from. And you know, and I know that we don't have a lot of time left, but if possible, I'm going to attempt to play this video, and I hope this one plays. Please let me know if you can hear the sound. Can you hear it? No. Okay.
No.
What we'll do is we will send this video to everybody as a link, and then we can make sure that. Okay, let's try this, please. Let me try that now. Okay.
No, we can't hear it. Dr. Arthie, you could add it as a link. I think that would be helpful as well.
Mm.
Integrity and honesty flows from what is actually.
I'm not sure if the sound is on, but I'm hoping that as you read it, it would resonate with who you are and where you're at in your life. Knowing that you deserve to be valued and honored as a human being, regardless of where you come from. And, from my side, all of those traits that I have seen is in Sadia, it is in Jan, it is in Mary, it is in Dawn, and it is in all of the people that I have surrounded myself with, and who understand that life has been given to us and it is precious. How we choose to live that life and add value to other people is powerful. And I want to encourage all of you to just connect, to network, and to see how we can uplift the people around us rather than use them as a stepping stone to grow ourselves. Because it's only together as people looking for the success of others that we grow as human beings. Otherwise, why do we walk this earth? I always say that, when you leave footprints on this earth, there's an energy that you leave behind with it. Would it be one that is meant to empower and enable? Or is it something that you leave behind with sadness and with hatred? At the end of the day, it's always a choice. And when we look at how does it elevate leadership in logistics, it's all about the energy we bring to the table. It's about the intentionality to guide and support the people around us. It is sharing our networks. It is helping people to grow by speaking clearly. It's about having beautiful boundaries. And it's in the way that we say things to the people around us that makes a massive difference. It's always the intentionality behind it. And values-based leadership, learning it at the feet of the gurus like Dawn and her family and the people around her, allowed me to grow. And it allows us to actually share that with people. And Mary is one of the first values-based leadership facilitators in Lebanon, who actually was brought to us through Sadia. And it was because of her that all of this has happened, and her growth happened with, where she brought a lot of people alongside her. So when you look at leadership, it's who are you bringing with you? And watch them grow, watch them heal, watch them succeed. Because as you do that, you are looking in the mirror every day, and it is humility that will look back at you. It is a humbleness that you cannot explain to people, that you were put on this earth and you're walking with purpose. So from my side, Mary, thank you so much. To Dawn, thank you so much. To Sadia, thank you for bringing us together. And to all of the people in the background, Dipti and the rest of the team, thank you from our side for persevering and for putting up with us, for all of your support, for all of your guidance, and for all of your communication. I want to say a special thank you to the team behind the scenes as well, because it takes a team to help a leader shine. So thank you so much to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Artie. Thank you, Dr. Dawn, also. And I am so proud to be a graduate and facilitator of Global Priority Solutions and have your signature, both of you, on my certificate. Really, I'm so grateful and happy that I have known Dawn, you also. Okay, thanks a lot for this valuable session. And the leadership values comes from you, and we are inspired, and every day we are getting inspired. And this is what I want to change in logistics, to get the aggressiveness and be real leaders, because logistics and cargo always needs aggressive people. But I am here because I am very compassionate, and I have always, between my brain and emotions, I'm also always balancing everything. So I want to put leadership in logistics, because really we need leaders to grow in this industry. And we need the new generation to walk a different journey and another path to make a change in this industry, because it is and will stay forever the first industry in this world. But with a little bit of leadership, it will change big time. Thanks a lot, really. Thanks for your valuable session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.